The Brewtally Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by Starving Artist Brewing. Starving Artist Brewing may be a small speck on Michigan's beer map, but they say big things come in small packages. A brewery who really puts their money where their mouth is, supporting underground artists far and wide. Making delicious beers with the simple belief that you should judge beer, not people. Brewtally Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by Rockabilia.com. For over 30 years, Rockabilia has been the go-to destination for all things band merch. With over 500,000 items in their online store and collaborations with today's hottest bands, you're sure to find something you love. Use our code BREW10 at checkout and take 10% off your total order. So go pick up your favorite new piece of merch now over at Rockabilia.com. And now, on to the show.
Say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing. This rings true because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, and if you're not having fun doing it, you're gonna give up.
What's up, everybody? Happy holidays, happy new year. Welcome to another episode of the Brewtally Speaking podcast. I am your host, John, and this episode's guest is Alex of Dead Icarus, formerly of Atreyu. I feel like I've been saying this a lot, but this has been a long time coming. Obviously, if you know the show, you know that over the last handful of years, I've gotten to really know the Atreyu dudes, and Alex was kind of the last one of the band that I hadn't had on the podcast, and not for lack of trying. Definitely had been trying for a while, but just never seemed like the right time. Alex was always busy doing a bunch of other stuff, and honestly was one of the few guys at the time that I just really didn't get to kind of connect with on a more personal level. But through the power of social media and Instagram DMs and such, over the years had kind of gotten to build a little bit of a rapport, and it was always, it'll happen when we get to it and stuff like that. And it finally happened. You know, Dead Icarus is a thing now. There is music out, and I'm sure you have heard from all the headlines that have already been made from some of the previous chats that Alex has done. The new record is being worked on right now. You'll probably, hopefully, get it in the next, I would say at some point in 2024 would be my guess at this point in time, but who knows? Alex kind of saying that he wants everything to be of a certain ilk, of a certain quality. This is the first record he's getting to do with Dead Icarus, so I'm sure that, the creative juices are flowing, and he really wants to put out the best product he can to kind of put a stamp on, this new thing that he's doing. And it also felt befitting, new year, when you're listening to this, obviously it'll be the new year. It just felt right to kind of put out an episode that kind of, I think, speaks to new beginnings and kind of finding yourself and all of these positive things that I think we go into New Year's with. We have all these ideas of how we want to become better, and just I think that's a sentiment that we all kind of latch onto around this time of year, and this felt like a conversation that kind of mirrored that. I mean, I know I personally have been trying to get ahead of the New Year, New Me bullshit. My wife and I have been going out to the gym for about the last 3 weeks or so, maybe about a month. In that time, I've really focused on cardio, because cardio has been garbage for me lately. And I used to run track and wrestle and play basketball and football and do all these things. So it's one of those where I just very much knew that was something that was kind of important to me. It was something that I always had growing up, being more athletic. And I decided, actually, while I was running, that I wanted to have something to work towards. And I know at this point that I had had the conversation with Andrew from Idola, talking about like my weight loss goal at the time. And the thing I kind of realized why that didn't necessarily work was because I didn't have a goal. I just wanted to lose weight, but I didn't have a goal. And I think for me, the thing moving forward after starting to work out was I needed to set a goal of some sort, something that I could achieve and would kind of keep me going. And for me, I realized it was running is when I always kind of enjoyed working out. Running is something that it's kind of a very mental thing. To hit a certain time, to hit a certain distance, a distance within a certain time. And it's, while you can do it in a team environment, a lot of the running I did was more singular. Running a 400, running an 800, running, different relays that you're still running a bit of a distance by yourself. And that was when I was kind of always the happiest with working out, because it was just an all mental thing. And so I decided that I wanted to do a race, not to win necessarily, but to challenge myself to something that I haven't done in a while, and kind of get that competitive mindset that I still have at times back and focus it towards something. And so for my goal this year, I have entered into a 5K that is in March. And I pretty much have already been able to complete the running part of it at just a little over 3 miles. I can do that now currently. But the goal is to get my time down, be able to do it in a respectable, what I think is a respectable amount of time. And I don't know if it's going to be my new thing. I don't know if running races is going to be my thing, but at this point, I think it's a good, sustainable, long-term goal to keep me motivated moving forward, and being able to keep track of something and have accountability. So while I'm saying it's not new year me, new me necessarily, it's kind of new year, old me. And I think that's something sort of that echoes through some of the things Alex actually had talked about in our chat, was that it wasn't necessarily a rebirth or a rebranding or anything. It kind of was I'm going back to what I wanted to do and who I was. All of that said, though, let's get into my conversation with Alex, and I'll talk to you all on the other side of it. It's especially worse when you when I realized it was like probably 40 minutes in, and I was like, motherfucker, the thing's not on.
Do you even tell the person, or you just try to play it off at that point? You know what I mean?
So it's funny, when it was with Shannon Larkin from Godsmack, and we were like, the dude was just so fucking nice, and started just having a casual conversation, super nice. And I was like, man, it really sucks. We didn't, because he had a heart out. And I was like, dude, I really wanted to talk about Glassjaw, working on Worship and Tribute. I want to talk about so many other things, and we just didn't get there. And he's like, well, let's do it again. Let's just do another one. We'll finish it. We'll do a 2-parter. And I was like, awesome. And it was around that time that I started looking at the thing to be like, yeah, okay, we got this much time. And then if I do another one, do I want to marry them together, make it 2 episodes, whatever? And I looked, and the time was way wrong. And I was like, oh no. And then that's when I kind of put it together that I didn't have the full thing, and had him back on to do the part 2. And then I just I came clean. I was like, dude, so I missed half of our conversation. And the weirder part was I just happened to be in this 40 minutes early, and getting all my stuff set up. And then he just popped in, and I was like, oh, and then we just started talking. So we talked for 45 minutes before we started, talked for 2.5 hours on the record, and then another 45 minutes to an hour afterward. And then he was just like, man, that was so much fun. Da da da. If I'm ever around, or you're near me somewhere, here's my phone number. Let's hang out. And I was like, that shit never fucking happens. So ended up getting it all, and it was really rad. And it's one of those things where just, I think honesty just is kind of the best policy, and things will kind of just work themselves out the way they're supposed to. Yeah, very much like this. I tried doing this with you so many times, and I think on the last couple of Atreyu runs, you were always tattooing people as your pre-show hangout thing.
Yeah, I had a pretty busy day life before the shows on tour. I didn't have a free moment. It felt like
it's crazy to I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings a lot of people think is that like you guys just all fuck around and don't do anything before a show. And it's like anymore, it's like I feel like everyone has like so many side hustles and businesses they're doing up until the show.
For sure. I think it really just depends on the person. You could definitely, if you wanted to just do nothing, you could, but you know, my normal day would be kind of like wake up pretty early, you know, go to the gym, come back, you know, I load into where I was going to tattoo that day when I was tattooing, you know what I mean? Get set up for that, you know, start to tattoo, maybe halfway through, do a sound check or something, and then come back and finish something like that.
As a client, I feel like that would just be awful where you're like, I mean, most of the stuff I saw you doing, the handful of times I saw you doing, and it's like you weren't doing like these big elaborate like chess pieces or anything like that. But it's like still, it would just kind of be a bitch to be like, I'm halfway through, and then it's like, I just got to sit here now.
To be fair, that only ended up happening a couple of times. Usually, I would schedule them and get them in and out before the sound check, or I do it after. I got pretty quick at a certain point, pretty quick hand, and doing traditional type tattoos when you feel kind of comfortable with it. You can rip through those pretty fast with a high level of quality. It might not feel the best for the person who's getting a tattoo, but you know, you could pick three, man. It can be fast, it can be good, or it can be painless. Or you could pick two of those three, but you can't have all of them. You know what I mean? So let me know.
Well, I mean, I feel like this is just as good of a segue as any, but like, I don't feel either you just don't post much of it anymore, or like, are you still tattooing at all?
No, you know, I haven't tattooed for a while. Even when Atreyu I was still in the band. I think I stopped maybe a year and a half before. I had a really bad injury to my machine hand. I was doing something stupid at a gym that I wasn't used to. I was sitting in a heavy bag, and I didn't have gloves on. I was just really kicking. I wasn't even doing stuff with legs. But when you kick, you kind of sweep the air away with your hands a little bit. And the bag hit like it was a janky setup wherever I was, like in this weird, it wasn't like a LA Fitness. It was just like it was a mom and pop gym, and the bag was hung not properly, and it would hit the ground in different ways, and it would recoil in weird ways. And I just wasn't paying attention, kind of like just repping kicks or doing something. I went to hit it, and I kicked it, and the bag bounced back and hyperextended like all the fingers on my machine hand. Two of them, not just hyperextended, but like they did like the splits. Let me show you the camera here. They did this. It's like as far as they could. So holding machine or anything, making a fist, it didn't work for a really long time. I think people thought I was an asshole too, because on that tour at meet and greets, I would want to bump fists, or I'd be like, no, this hand, and they're like, what the fuck is this guy's doing? I on my hand, and my hand was like super swollen. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. I just don't put it out there, like hold it around. You know what I mean? But yeah. So long story long, no, man. I stick to painting now, and I've been so busy with Dead Icarus and like trying to be at very least a mediocre vocalist. You know what I mean? The journey to mediocrity has been very, very time consuming for me.
Well, it was one of those things. I just remember it seemed like you were very much pursuing a career in it, at least, and like seemingly going through the apprenticeship process and so forth. And we're even tattooing out of like Jose's I don't know. It looks like just a creative space of sorts.
Yeah, that was so awesome of Jose and the guys at Sullen Clothing.
That's what it was.
Jeremy and stuff. Yeah, I tattooed on tour. Then I'd come home, and for a while, I would tattoo. Like I would just go get hotel rooms and stuff like that. Because I didn't work in a shop locally anymore. The shop I worked at, I didn't work there anymore that I apprenticed at. And I didn't have a home shop. And it's hard. You can't hold a chair somewhere and be gone for 2 months. You know, it doesn't work like that. That's a money-making spot. I don't want to take away from dudes who need that and need to work and be there. And nobody wants me to be there taking that away from them either. So it was like weird for me. Where am I going to go when I came home? And then, Jose and Jeremy at Sullen hooked me up tattooing over there and let me tattoo. Yeah, they have a cool artistic space outside of one of Jose's offices up there. It was a cool vibe, and being around like kind of like-minded, motivated people, even though they're doing different stuff, maybe they're not tattooing or whatever, they're doing some business stuff, or it was awesome. It was an awesome vibe. I was very fortunate and lucky that they let me do that. You know what I mean? So yeah. I did that for a long time, and I tattooed on the road and stuff. Then after I hurt my hand, my focus kind of changed. in life. A whole bunch of stuff was kind of happening, and what I won't really get into. And it just, I don't know. I lost a flair for a lot of things in my life. I think I started to go through like a little bit of probably a lot of bit of a depression. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but it was already setting in then.
Well, it's interesting because, like, obviously, in the painting behind you, I remember actually asking you if you had done that, like, when you posted it a while ago, because it's like a mixed media piece of sorts. And it was also because of the Donald Duck stuff. I was like, wait, did you make that? Because, like, obviously, that's a registered thing. So,
Yeah, no, that's Greg Duck. That's not Donald.
Yeah.
As you can see, Greg's bill is goldenrod and Donald's bill is yellow. So these two are not. They don't even know each other. It's a coincidence.
If I've learned anything in the getting into the screen printing game again, especially at a more commercial level, like the shop I'm at is, there's such thing as parody law. So you're safe under that.
Yeah, you know what? And then it's not for sale. It's not something I would ever sell. It took me so long. Like no one would pay me thousands of dollars for it, which is what I would need to feel good about, like how much time I spent on it. Because I did the whole underpainting took a long time, and then actually painting all the bullshit on top of it took some time too, and then painting more bullshit on top of that. So yeah, man, I'm keeping that. I did it for me. I like Donald. Donald, if you want me to ramble, I identify the most with Donald of any Disney character, because Donald is like faulted and honest, and like Mickey is full of it. Mickey's like, yeah, I'm so happy all the time. Yeah. Like no one's really like that. And if they are, you watch that fucker. And, or get me on what they're on. And then Goofy is incompetent. So I don't really like, I'm incompetent, but I'm not that incompetent. So like, I don't relate to Goofy. Like Donald, man, he kept it real. Like he kind of yelled sometimes, but you knew he was a good dude. You knew he meant well. He just got frustrated very easily. So, I can relate.
It's just one of those things where I feel like, and kind of, not to just harp on tattooing, but I think it's such an interesting medium of expression. And something I always wanted to talk to you about it, because I feel like a lot of what you ended up doing, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, from an outsider's perspective, was, you were tattooing a lot of designs or things sort of based on your own lyrics that people identified with at times.
Yeah, like sometimes I tried to. At the beginning, I just tattoo whatever. Then as I got to be a little bit more, the ability to be more picky, I guess, I kind of like veered away. I tried to veer away from that. I never really like doing lyrics and stuff. Was never an intention. I've never tattooed the Atreyu logo. I've had offers, dumb offers, still to this day, every now and then, for like way too much money for that, and I just won't do it. Like it's not. I never wanted my art. Once you do one, you're done. Does that make sense? Like once I do one Atreyu logo, even though like a guy in the band, I wouldn't have done it at the time. That's all. Oh man, can I get that too? And that's what defines you. And I'm a picky artist. I'm someone who like gets a whim and I want to go follow it, whether it's musically, building guitars, painting, digital art, whatever it is. When my compass points at something, I gotta go. And that's what was great about tattooing, is getting to kind of call my own shots. And so if they had to, I could relate it, you know what I mean, to a Atreyu thing. And I think that's great. I don't think it's like, I'm not bummed out that anybody wanted me to tattoo the lyrics. Like what a very cool, unique thing. You know what I mean? To get the dude from the band that lyrics mean something to you, put them in you forever. I think that's pretty deep. But there's also a point where I didn't want my whole career to be that. So like I would, like full disclosure, I would charge extra for lyrics just because like, hey, if you want me to do that, I will do that for you. But there's a price for that. I would rather just not. I would even say it. I think I would have like a form message worked up for people who would message me like, I'm more than happy to do lyrics, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. It's not a ton, like $100 or something, but it's going to be more, because I just don't want it to. I don't want this to just be a souvenir tattoo with lyrics. I want it to be a real tattoo for you. You know what I mean? And even my most shallow tattoo has deep meaning in some way. You know what I mean?
Because I have a bunch of dumb shit.
So I want to, and that's what I do. I'm a soul surfer in a weird way in life, and in music, I got away from that a little bit, and it fucked me, to be honest. So when you're following that, the moral compass, honestly, man, it's great. And yeah, tattooing gave me a lot of freedom for a couple of years. I made a lot of money that I was able to help support my family with. Atreyu, at the time, especially, I don't know if it's gotten better. Obviously I wouldn't know, but, respectfully, financially, we weren't killing it. the last few years we were in the band, or I was in the band, I should say. So, that extra income is something I'm so grateful that the fans of the band were willing to trust me with their bodies to do. And I want to stress that, it was such an awesome time. And I'm so happy that they let me do it. And it was like, a lot of dudes like front or try to act like they're rich and this and that from the band. And that's not the case. Trey is a working class band. It's something I'm proud of, but I got 3 kids and mouths to feed, and, a substitute teacher is making a lot more than I was making. So and then we need substitute teachers. Very important job. I'm not talking shit. I'm just giving you an idea of where.
Right. Well, because like a thing that is always kind of fascinating to me as someone who is heavily tattooed and has been around the industry for many years with many friends in it and so forth is sort of, it's almost a double whammy. And this is kind of where I was really going to go with it was I feel like it'd be such a double whammy for you where it's like you're providing someone this thing that they want that will be on them forever. It's an expression of them outwardly. But a lot of times, and I'm not taking away this experience from anyone, and I'm not trying to like negate it at all, but it's like because of like the Ink Master shows and stuff like that, it sort of became this thing where I feel like the shift in the industry of I'm just getting shit because it's cool or it's just a whatever, it's just a fun little keepsake, that it became like this is a keepsake or a memento of like kind of the worst shit that has happened to me. And therefore, where the duality of it, of just stacking on is like, I'm sure you've also had, and again, not taking away from other people's experiences, because your lyrics and stuff have done this to me over the years, excuse me, but it's a thing where tattoo artists become like cut rate therapists, essentially. You're sitting there and you're hearing all these things. And I always think about, right. And it's like, okay, what does that do to you? Okay, now compound onto it. You're also probably having people tell you your lyrics, which you're tattooing onto somebody, what it's done to them. And it's like, okay, how was that experience for you? But it sounds like that wasn't really a thing for you because you kind of set the boundary initially.
I guess I was lucky in a way to be used to it, sort of, because of already having experience with the band and people diving into the lyrics and having some sort of meaning or relation to them. So I stutter, I ramble sometimes. My interview game is off. It's been several years. So trying to like put cohesive words together and not say, do you understand what Dad is saying to you? You know what I mean? It's a trip. So fuck, where was I? What was I rambling about? What's that? I couldn't hear.
The experience of kind of navigating through people kind of, I don't want to say trauma dumping, but just kind of explaining those things to you.
Yeah, no, man, I was used to it maybe from Atreyu, from like meet and greets or like, like seeing people at a bar after the show, and sometimes alcohol being involved. People are feeling more free to share crazy life events with you. So I was kind of already used to hearing some wildly, I laugh, but some of it's very sad, wild emotional stuff. You know what I mean? So when I was tattooing, it was almost just like, okay, yeah, you know what I mean? I'm 3/4 zoned out anyway, not zoned out, but like laser like focused, you know what I mean? So on what I'm doing. So luckily I couldn't get too emotional in some of them, but yeah, man, it's a good thing, man. People need to get out their feelings and shit more. It's something I wish that I had worked on healthier ways to do earlier in my life, So if you got to tell your tattoo artist some shit to feel better, fucking go for it. If that dude doesn't listen, then fuck him.
Well, I think the hard part is like, one of my best friends is a tattoo artist, and something I always kind of talk about is like, but then what do you do with that? Like, like it's not a normal profession, and neither is, being in a band, a professional musician, where it's like, sometimes I don't think that we take into consideration or stock of like how we will dump things onto other people. And then it's like, yeah, I unburden that shit off of me. But then like, what do I do with it now? Where it's like, okay, like my friend was like telling a story, and I've said it before, but he was talking about like a tattoo he gave this woman, and it was because her husband was very abusive. And this was like her reclaiming her life and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, it's awesome that you get to provide that feeling for that client. And I go, but the flip side of hearing some of the worst things that people go through day in and day out, it's not really something when you come home, you're like, how was your day today? Oh, well, here's a horrible fucking story I heard about how shitty people are in the world today. And it's like, it's hard. And I feel like something I as I have gone to therapy over like the years now and stuff like that, it's something I like to try to talk about a little bit more, because I think it's a thing where you just never know what other people are going through, but also how do people navigate the hardships of life sometimes. And maybe there's something you figured out or you do that someone listening, or even myself, like I might hear and go, oh, that's a good idea. I should try to incorporate that into whatever I'm already doing. So I always like to kind of pose these sort of questions and sort of get into more of an understanding of how do people navigate their way through life, because it's hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, luckily my emotional landscape is so intense and rapidly changing that like I almost like don't keep can't keep thoughts in my head long enough to get too depressed about some of them anymore. But I think when you realize that no matter how hard that you have it and like whatever you're going through, there's someone who has it just like that. And then there's somebody who's got it like 5 degrees worse. And there's somebody who's got it 15 degrees worse. And so forth down the ladder. And realizing that like your situation is temporary, no matter what it is. It really is temporary situation, whatever the shit is. I mean, feel like it's dragging on forever. Man, I went through some shit that literally lasted years. I thought it was never going to end. And it slowly does. Life slowly changes. You know what I mean? And you have to be willing and open to the process to it. And I think that's the biggest thing in anything. If you're not willing and open to experience good and be a part of that, then you're just going to feel like shit. And you're just going to let those other emotions, that's going to be your focus, you know? And so I think when like people are telling, you know, me these stories, I look at it so many different ways. When I look, thank God, I'm so fortunate. God or whoever you're into. I'm so fortunate that I feel like my life is not better than this person's, but I'm glad I'm not in this fucking terrible situation. You know what I mean? That I have XYZ going for me. So that makes me feel good. I'll go home and look at my kids in a different way. Go home and look at my wife in a different way. You know what I'm trying to say? So I think life affords you these opportunities for introspection. They chose for that person to be in your path and for you to hear their story. And then you can decide what you get out of it. You can decide where to go from it. However deep or superficial you want to make it, that's the beauty of life. So you could tell me a story about your husband beating you, and I could just be a superficial asshole and keep that out here, because I just don't want that in me right now. You know what I mean? Or I can let that in and really like try to talk with you about it, and I'm going to internalize it. And it really just depends on how you as a person are and what's really going to help you. And you got to take care of yourself too on that day. You know what I mean? So some days, man, it's great to be there for everybody and play the therapist. To a degree, you got to be very careful with these things. You know, I think a lot of people out there throwing like armchair therapists, and it's like, dude, some people have really, really deep emotional issues that someone with a degree needs to work on and understanding, and not just you or me trying to help them out, you know, give them some positive words. So,
well, I think that's a big thing. I think tentatively we all kind of come to learn too, is sort of understanding that there are boundaries and that they can be for the betterment of yourself. And I think that's been like something as odd and stupid as it sounds to like come to this conclusion, but the power of no, and like how that can be a boundary has just been like so eye-opening for me in the last couple of years, of just like not taking on too many projects and things and spreading myself too thin, to then whatever I am giving myself to, it's not my all in any of those things. So it's like, man, the power of no has been such a big one for me.
Yeah, I think the power of no this is super huge and underrated. I think, you know, thinking about what you're doing before you get yourself into it is good too. I think a lot of people don't do that. I had something really good with the power of no, and it was right here, and it just right out of my head here. Fuck, we'll see if it comes back. What else we got?
Well, I mean, another thing I've always kind of wanted to talk to you about too. I mean, I feel like it's
That's gonna be
obvious. Yeah, sorry. This is why like it's the good and the bad of not prepping, because like I like to be more in the moment, but sometimes like you just had, where it's like I had a thought and I'm like, okay, that's not a fully formed sentence. How do I say it without being like, so like, you know, and then it's like half the time you're like, well, it's kind of not coming, and you're just like, maybe it wasn't a thing. That's the other thing I've kind of learned doing this too is there. Yeah, I thought it was there, but also like as I've also learned in talking and communicating, both in doing this and more personally with like personal relationships, to not just keep yammering on when you don't have the idea.
Yeah.
That it's okay to just be quiet, think about it, and either it'll come to you or it won't. And no one's going to, in theory, no one's going to be like, well, you're a fucking idiot.
You made me remember what I was going to say.
There we go.
But it's like with the power of no also comes.
Oh.
Jesus. Does that make sense?
No, you cut out.
Oh yeah. Well, no one can make you say anything that you don't want to say.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? But we don't realize that sometimes, you know what I mean? I don't realize that, and I let anger or something dictate what I'm going to do, and that's really just clearly is giving someone else control. You're letting someone else, pull your strings. Sometimes the power of silence or the power of no weighs a lot heavier. Sometimes you got to talk some shit too. You know what I mean? Some fucking lame people out there.
So something that I've kind of been, someone like yourself, I think you're so multifaceted in doing a lot of things. You remind me of this thing my wife has shown me, and I forget to always look up the person's name so I can give them credit. But there is this TED Talk about people becoming multi-potentialites, that essentially that when we grow up, that we are asked in an environment that fosters like a singular thing. What do you want to be when you grow up? As in one thing. Yeah. Never like, what things are you into? Let's try to figure this out and foster positive inner relationships with these things and see what grabs you. And sometimes you might be so passionate and all in about this one thing, but then that turns into something else because the passion just ran out or whatever. And I know, like, when I watched that, my wife's like, this is you. And I was like, this feels negative. But when you watch the video, you kind of learn that it's a thing where society kind of makes it feel like it's a negative thing to be passionate about a lot of things, but maybe you don't stick to those things consistently. And so I feel like you are someone that is gets very passionate about something for like a little bit. Like, I had asked you about the I Am War thing, and I'm sure a lot of people maybe have asked you about that. And it's like, at that time, it seemed like you were very excited and very passionate about that. That's not the thing anymore. Now it's Dead Icarus. It's also building guitars and a lot of other things. So I was going to say, do you tend to find that in yourself, that you notice that, like, what I like to call pivot points, where it's like, I'm passionate about this, but maybe it's not what I'm into anymore, but I'm going to pivot slightly, and now I found this other thing I'm into. Do you find that that is something that you tend to do a lot more?
I think, well, first off, with I Am War was like only ever supposed to be like a studio thing. Brandon and I like talked about playing a show, and I think we were almost playing a show, and then we didn't, and it just kind of like never went anywhere. It was just going to be what it was, And then Atreyu was like back or coming back, whatever. I'm so shitty with timelines, man. My memory's so bad. But so I was doing that. So it was never supposed to be. It was never a thing. Whereas like Dead Icarus is like a full time, as much as I can possibly do it, playing live shows, everything. It's taken a while to get to this point because I'm mercurial. Like, if this goes to my second thought, the act of creation and art to me is what I'm about. I'm a creator and an artist. I'm not necessarily a musician. I'm like, okay, I'm good enough at it. You know what I mean? I'm not necessarily a painter. I'm okay. I can do it. You know what I mean? I'm a creator and different, or a luthier as far as building guitar goes, right? These different things, these different mediums speak to me, and they give me different ways to create and to get things out. You know what I mean? I saw something, and I think instantly, if I say this dude's name, all of a sudden people are going to think certain things about me, but they can all fuck off. Like Jordan Peterson. And he's talking about how certain types of people, like I am different, not necessarily in a good way than most of society. And the way that my brain functions artistically and creatively is not like yours probably, and not like most of the people you know. And I'm not telling you it's a good thing. I'm just telling you it's a thing. Like, we're different. Like, I speak a different language sometimes than most people. And it's very hard for a lot of people to deal with and sometimes be around consistently for years. I'm not going to tell you it's an easy dude to be in a band with. I'm not going to tell you a hard dude to be in a band with. You know what I mean? I'm a creative, artistic, mercurial, passionate person. And that leads me to all these different pursuits. And I'm lucky, and so lucky and blessed that I think my music career got to let me do all these things. You know what I mean? And I don't forget that, you know what I mean? But to me, I feel like a creator. I feel like sometimes too, this is a new phrase that's come up, like imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I get down on myself, just like anybody. and I'll be like, fuck, like I suck at this. I shouldn't do this. You know what I mean? I think I did that to myself a little with tattooing. If I'm being introspective, I think I used like the injury of my hand to kind of like step away from it. I would get scared before every single tattoo I ever did because the pressure I put on myself.
It's permanent though.
Yeah, to do it, nothing is permanent in this day and age. But you know what I mean? I put this pressure on myself not only as a tattooer, but it's like Alex from Atreyu, the band that you like, that you have this expectation of too. So I'm like, I'm loading up all this shit on myself and I'm putting myself at a mental disadvantage before I even begin. And then it started to go into music. It started to be like when I was on stage, we would play some of the newer material and I would start to have those kind of like second guessing feelings. Like, do the fans know that I feel weird about this song or this part, or that maybe I'm not into it as much as this other song I might be? You know what I mean? I feel fake. I know I should feel enthusiastic and love this. I hope I'm trying my best to like give this show and like put my passion into it. But then I start second guessing myself. You know what I mean?
I think, and I'm just gonna. All right, before I say this, I'm gonna say this, setting this up. So, one of my friends that does a podcast as well, we talk about sort of the beauty of this medium is when both people give and take. And so this usually is a very take one-sided thing. Like I ask you to give me all the shit and I never give anything back to you, and essentially, which is why both of us like the medium, because it feels like we are giving and taking, and there's kind of some like magic that's happening in this. So the thing for me, having seen you guys play for so long, is I've started in bands in general, like even like Every Time I Die, like bands that I've been seeing for 10 plus years or more, where I have that rapport of understanding and seeing them over the years. I've kind of started to think like, I think some of the bands that are at a level where they don't have to play very often, like a Metallica, like I just saw them the other day for the first time. And I know that they are at an upper echelon where they don't have to play every day. They don't have to do anything more than they want to. Yeah. And that's a very rare luxury to be at that level. But I think there's something to be said about it where it's like, I think when you do something, and also I'm thinking of a conversation I had with Jordan and Mitch from X Every Time I Die yesterday, where, you know, they were talking about the newness of everything and that they're not in autopilot mode. And it's weird for them because like, they're like, oh, I don't know how to move and I don't know how to be. And it's, these songs aren't, you know, they don't just come to me. No, and so sure. I've been thinking of the last couple of days about just the experience of like fatigue and how like, it's like, yeah, how excited can you be to play a song that you've been playing for fucking 15 years and not be in autopilot mode and not to like do this thing that I feel like maybe there's a sense of a happy medium somewhere where it's like, could I not play, like, for example, in Atreyu, could I not play Lip Gloss in Black and maybe play something that makes me happy on this tour? I would love to, but then I'm also going to like the internal struggle of someone's going to go walk away disappointed. Well, they didn't fucking play Lip Gloss. Well, yeah, but you got this one and I was more into it. We were more into it. Yeah. Wouldn't you want that? Wouldn't you rather have me be into what I'm doing than, all right, here's the same fucking song and dance I've been doing just to appease you?
I think, and I have kind of a perspective on this now. How can I put it? Set me up with the question one more time.
So I guess the question it's not really. I guess it's not really a question. It's just more of like an observation. Yeah, it's just more of like a fatigue. Yeah.
One, I think like that's where it's so important to like have an enthusiastic crowd. You know what I mean? I got up at 9 a.m. that day or 8 a.m. whatever after doing the same routine the day before, and I did my crazy Fool's Day routine of fitness, tattooing, musician shit, and now it's time for the rock, for the big show, the thing for you, and we're ready to go, and you're fucking low energy, and this is a rock show. It's going to be fucking low energy, but it also has to do with what the band plays. Like if you come out there, there's a difference between starting the set with, you know, let's say The Time Is Now, and the difference between starting it with Bleeding Mascara. You know what I mean? Like that's going to elicit a different response, and that's where it comes down to maybe the band creatively feeling different ways about things. You know what I mean? It's always exciting and fun to play new songs. To be honest, I don't feel at times I didn't feel at times as invested in the new songs as I did in the old ones. I'm not trying to say like poo-poo them or like I didn't have a part or any bullshit like that. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, I felt more of an attachment to older ones because I played more of a role in the creation of those songs. You know what I mean? And they were about like Suicide Notes, The Curse, and Death Grip. I want to say are all 101% all my lyrics, like every single word. So it's like they're huge parts of my life. So I connect with those more. I think then as the band moved on into other records, became a little bit more willing to let other people in there and let other people work on that with me. But no, like for those first three, like those are intense. Like The Curse is my diary at like 22 about my just being a melodramatic 22-year-old. You know what I'm saying? So it's fucking crazy, so I'll always have an attachment to that. And if people are excited and paying money and that's what they want to see, like first, let's hear me out, that they just want to hear The Curse and they don't want to hear whatever the newest record is. You know what I mean? That's got to be hard for a band. Maybe you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know you want to be artistic and like fucking stoke your creative oats, but then I think sometimes bands, are they stoking the creative oats, or are they trying to stoke mainstream seeds to grow into something different? You know what I mean? And I think that was something Atreyu struggled with. I think when the band went to work with Feldman, I think that there was too much of a commitment to letting him take control of things. And I think if the band had dug in, we're all creative, talented individuals. We all bring a lot to it. Man, what even better thing could have been created? I'm not saying XYZ about lead sales, you know what I mean? But that changed the course of everything, and it was a massive departure from everything that was happening before, you know what I mean? So it's fucking crazy, like the story of a band. So when you have these changes, you have these all these type of fans, I think it was hard for the band to know like where to go. What do our fans want? You know what I mean? It's hard, and you got 5 different minds who want, 5 different things, or 4 minds who want one thing and 1 mind who wants to go fucking do whatever the fuck he wants to do. It is what it is, man. It's an exciting journey, life can either teach you or cripple you, and like, I'd rather just learn, some days, you feel crippled and some days you feel enabled by it. You learn shit from it. But yeah, man, I fatigue for me on old songs wasn't necessarily an issue. There's always like certain songs that maybe, like for me, Right Side of the Bed, after a while, like I don't have anything against the song. I just, fuck, man, I could do without that one a little bit. You know what I mean? But it would have just been in place of another older song of that ilk. So,
right.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't have taken out Right Side of the Bed and put in a newer song, because I know that most of the old fans, or not old fans, most of the fans in general, like, that's what they want to hear. They want to hear those. And I think you have a band, you got to balance that shit. You know what I mean? You got a 20-song set, half of it or more should be just a little half or more has got to be what the fans want. You know what I mean? Why are they there? They're not there to see you fucking just, sow creative oats. That's fun and shit, but it's exciting. But you have to figure out a way to merge both. It's great to say, like, I can just do whatever the fuck I want and I just do whatever I want. And a lot of artists act like they do that. Not really.
Before I completely forget, because you were talking about lyrics, so there's something I've always wondered. I don't know if you even have any recollection of what you actually said, but I've always wondered, in the like bridge section, like the palm muted part of Lip Gloss in Black, what are you like muttering? Because it's almost like you're whispering something, and it's sort of between the guitars and how they pan and shit like that. It's hard to really focus in on that, and there's obviously no lyrics, so I've never.
Yeah,
but you're saying something.
I'm muttering like probably three different things that have some of the same words, and they just kind of layered it over at the time. I don't even remember if I heard it, but right now in my mind, that part's not there. It's something I remember. If it started playing, I would know, like muscle memory would kick in and I would do it. But like off the top of my head, no, I think it's just.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, say whatever live, I would say
right.
Ridiculous shit, but on recording, yeah, I'm probably saying something gothic sounding, something like AFI would have said.
Well, because like the interesting thing in like the story later would become like the bridge part of Everlong by Foo Fighters. Dave's reading a letter that I can't remember if he wrote to his wife upon their divorce or his wife wrote to him, and he's essentially kind of reading it
crazy
over that part. But it's like you can't really hear it, but like I don't know, it's just one of those things that it's like, as a person who loves like weird little nuances to songs and like stuff that it's like it's there but it's not on anything, you can't Google the lyrics or anything like that. Like I enjoy finding out like what is that, what inspired that thing, like just to kind of the inside scoop on it.
Just me being spooky goth weird. I'm sure I had something written down for it because I was that type of person, and I'm sure at some point there's lyrics for it, but I can't remember what they are. Like I said, it was like three different things. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Wanted to talk about your guitar Luthier school because you came here to Michigan, like where my wife went to college up in Big Rapids to go do it.
Oh yeah.
How
beautiful Big Rapids.
It's something.
I got respect to Big Rapids. It's a very small rural town. You know, I don't come from anything like that.
I guess that's the difference.
Dude, there's concrete everywhere. Everywhere I live, there's concrete. There's trees and shit, but it's like we know what happened. We know how those trees got there. But Big Rapids is just fucking trees and like squirrels the size of French bulldogs, man. It's awesome. I had a great time. You know what I mean? Sorry if you had like a specific question, but yeah, I got.
Well, it was more of just it was just a thing of, and you kind of just answered part of it of like sort of the culture shock, because like you probably, unlike anybody else you went to school, you're in your classes, you're married, you have a career, and you've been doing something, and to leave your normalcy behind to go back and do something like that, I feel like would be just, interesting to kind of pick apart of like, what was that experience like for you to kind of so late in life kind of get an experience. And I think touring probably helped you deal with it more than most who are kind of leaving for the first time. But I feel like it's quite a not a lonely experience because you're obviously with other people, but I feel like the idea of I'm going to learn how to build something and I'm going to be building things by myself. It's like, it's a solo journey. It's like a hero's journey of sorts.
Yeah, man. I think we as people, you know, and again, I have the luxury of being a musician for so long and making the decisions that financially allow me to go on some of these whims. You know what I mean? So not everybody's afforded that ability to just pick up and do whatever they want. But I think we lose the ability to challenge ourselves as we get older. And then being in a band and being a lead singer in a band where like people aren't really challenging you. You know what I mean? It's not a very often thing. And the bigger your band is, maybe the less you're going to get challenged. And I've always thrived on that. I think I've always done my best in adversity. When Atreyu was on it, like that upward arc for so many years at the beginning, it was like we felt kind of like the odd man out, adversity, chip on our shoulder type thing, and which I definitely feel again now, which is invigorating to be like, you know, I'm fucking 41 and I feel fantastic. I'm holding it up great, and I'm ready to meet the future. Whereas at the end of me being, you know, 36, 37, and my back's falling apart, my heart's not into what I'm doing. It's a fucking mind-blowing situation. So I think as humans, like we need that ability to challenge ourselves. And for me, kind of the things I do to challenge myself is I've never been handy. I'm not a handy person like that. I'm not a detail-oriented person in those sort of in that way. And I was, you know, I started playing guitar a little bit just for myself, not as a profession. Just as an outlet when the whole pandemic happened and the split from Atreyu happened. It was something I felt I wanted to do. And so I picked up guitar and I'm like, fuck, like it spoke to me in a way past like making notes, the expression that comes in the actual instrument itself. And then like being a guitar player, and you go into a store and you've got all these hundreds of guitars. They're not really that different. I mean, they are a little bit how they look and how they play. There's all these little variations, right? What one is for you? And this whole store of 300, you can't even find one, or you can only find one that speaks to you. Like, that's rad. Like, that's a journey. That guitar is meant to be with you. You know what I mean? And you're meant to do something with it. And for me to like be a part of that and to make instruments that like end up with people like one of the guys I sold an instrument to, his name's Pat. Pat's making awesome music with his guitar. Like, how fucking neat is that? Like, another musician, however mediocre I am, you know, made this instrument that you're using that sounds good. Like, they hold up, dude. I'm not making shit here. That holds up, and you're bringing songs into the world on this handmade in America, or it doesn't matter, it's in America, but this handmade thing that I made, that I put blood, sweat, and tears into and labored over and stressed out about, and now you've taken it and you're making art from art. That was something that was like fascinating to me, and I want to contribute to it in some way. You know what I mean? So, you know, I went to a couple other things. I went to these awesome dudes called Texas Toast, who do like a weekend or week long guitar building things, and they really got me juiced up. Wonderful guys there. And then I went to Gallup for a 2 month. You can go 2, 4, or 6 at Gallup, and then because of my family situation, I went for 2 months, and it's awesome. You just build guitars, you work and learn 9 hours a day, 6 days a week. Sometimes there's extra stuff on the weekends. You're so immersed in what's going on the weekends. Sometimes your mind just needs it off anyway. Well, fully immersive, but yeah, it was scary. It was isolating. I drove out there on my own from California. And keep in mind, this is just shortly after
the pandemic.
The band got announced. No, the pandemic was pandemic hits in 2020. I'm out of the band technically in like April of 2020, but it doesn't get announced because life is bullshit until like September or October or whenever the fucking Lamb Goat thing happened. So like that never came out, came out then. So I was out for a while. Then, I was already planning. I went to guitar school, like all this crazy stuff happened. So, but yeah, the guitar thing was during the pandemic as well. So it was, it sucked, dude. Driving out there, it's a weird time. We weren't wearing masks and stuff in there, and I'm not going to go on a political tirade for or against it. But yeah, man, it was a crazy time to experience that. Spend 4 days driving across America. 3 days, whatever, by yourself, 9-10 hours a day, listening to music, thinking about my life and my situation. It was real good for me. Then you get there, and we have a cabin in the woods. There's no real cell reception. So I could talk to my family a little bit when I was at school. And luckily I got an upstairs room at the cabin that I was in. And if I was in one corner of the upstairs room, luckily at night when I had the time to talk to my family anyway, like I could talk to my family a little bit. And having 3 kids, like that's pretty hard to not. So I had to do that. I got to do that. And then I would fly home like on the weekends. There was like 2 weekends out of the time that I went home and visited them. But yeah, man, it was an experience, to put myself kind of, when you're the singer of a band or you're in a band, like I said, like, I don't want to say yes men, but, people treat you a certain way. And when you're low on I don't mind being low on the totem pole. So it was fine for me to be a beginner guitar student again. I started training jujitsu again as well. I trained jujitsu for several years. In my early 20s, I earned a blue belt, legit blue belt. Like I could get down, you know what I mean? Not that it says much, blue belt's like a beginner, but you know what I mean? Like it's like saying you're almost good at jujitsu, or you almost know it. And then I came back to it, 15 years later. I came back to it right when I turned 40, which is just on the other side of the band thing. And dude, it's awesome. Put me again as low man on the totem pole. I went back in, told my freshman man, hey, like I feel like a wipeout. I feel like I don't know shit, and I had to kind of earn a blue belt again. It was a short period because I already, I had trained for several years before already, but not training for 16 years or 15 or 12, whatever, how many years I'm out of it, and being over 40, is a fucking trip. Is an experience. Is a humbling, I'll say. And I think a lot of dudes in bands forget what it's like to be humbled. I forget what it's like to be humbled. And I got very, I think, complacent in my role in life with how things were towards the end of Atreyu. And I think complacency is the killer in life in general. So however small it is, scaring myself or challenging myself to go to jiu-jitsu, challenging myself to build these guitars, trying to build paintings that are probably bigger than I should be, or paint that are bigger than I should be doing for where I was when I was painting. No, I'm going for it. You know what I mean? This record, we're working on a full length now. Gabe and I just started a couple days ago. And I was like, I'm going to try to do X, Y, and Z on this stuff I'm really confident in and like fucking kill these things I'm confident in. And I started working on the songs and I'm like, I'm going to try this new thing I've never fucking done before. I'm going to see how, and that's the way to be, I think that's the way to go. That's the way is forward, and being creative and following my heart and trying things, I say this as respectfully as I can, but there are things that I do on the new Dead Icarus songs, which have been, for the people that have heard them, I think were relatively well received. I'm really proud of how people have been reacting to them. And I do different things vocally than I ever have. I try out a bunch of different things, different voices. And there were things that I maybe tried when we were working with Feldman, but Feldman heard my voice in like one or two, only in certain ways. And if I tried something like I do like a false chord type, sounds kind of like James Hetfield on steroids. And he would just kind of mock me and say I sounded like James Hetfield, like a weird James Hetfield. And it's like, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing, sounding like James. Like, I sold a couple records, my man. It's an iconic voice. And yeah, like I practice singing to some Metallica stuff. I'm not even a huge Metallica fan. I like James' voice. I like what he does with it. I think it's fucking cool, and he's the innovator. So I want that influence. So it's fun. I can do it now. I don't have some fucking dumb fucking producer in my ear going, that. Like, I don't fucking want that. Like, I don't want to write pop music. You know what I mean? I don't want to cater to this. If I make a poppy song now, it's because I want to do that. It's not because like some random collaborator you brought in today to write a song with me because it would be fresh and interesting. Fuck that. Like, that's not what I'm into. I'm glad that other people are into that stuff. Great. Go work with whatever, pop punk band or whatever group that you think stokes your musical oats. And that's not my direction. Or it wasn't with Atreyu. Atreyu had a certain way it sounded in my head. And that way that it sounded in my head is the sort of the curse, but more in the death grip.
Okay.
And I wish I could, because it would be easy to say the curse, right? Oh, I think it would sound like because that's like what the record that most people latch onto. But for me, it was death grip. That was the evolution of the sound that I really think should have been explored fully. You know what I mean? But dude, it all happens for a reason. Those dudes are exploring whatever the fuck they want to explore now, and I'm exploring whatever the fuck I want to explore now. So if you want to look at it in a constructive way, like, more music is being put out into the world. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? I'm not going to say it's good or bad, theirs or mine. You know what I mean? I'm just going to say it's more creativity being put out into the world. And I think that's a good thing. I think, you know what I mean? And I'm so happy that I can play around with all these different voices that I didn't get to do before. There wasn't the time, dude. We're nailing a song every day with Feldman. We had to get, it just felt like, wow, we have to get this song now. And now I can spend 3 days on the intro of a song. Like, it doesn't matter, whether that's too long or not, to get it right. To get it right, and to have it mean the same thing that it means to you and to me, and to put your fucking heart into it, to have that only take 3 days, that's a pretty good deal. You know what I mean? Heartfelt music is not created like that, in my opinion. And it's not something I want to be a part of. And it's okay that other people do that. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not that kind of musician. I'm not that good, maybe. I'm not that quick. I need to practice my parts. I need to feel them emotionally. Other people writing stuff for me is very fucking difficult. That's what's been cool about Gabe. Gabe and I here and would do things very differently. Gabe could write the vocals for all these songs if he wanted to, but I write them, and Gabe helps me realize my path, the right way through what I want to do, not what he wants to do. Does that make sense? Unless I'm fucking shit in the bed, then he's like, yo, bro, you're shit in the bed. We're not going to do this. He hasn't had any of those talks with me yet, although I sent him a song earlier today, and the nervous artist in me keeps checking my cell phone, waiting to see what he thinks of it. So, hopefully he doesn't tell me I shit to bed. If he does, then I'm going to have to take that criticism and work and create something that doesn't. It's going to be fucking awesome, and I lost that. It's, to be honest, in Atreyu, I was willing to let the dudes do it and me come in, and I'm going to do my part. And that was my sin, the sin of the apathy, or the, becoming jaded to it all. This is what I do. And now, like, my creative juices are on. I was working on a song today and just re-singing the same thing, like with 5 different voices, like a screamed voice, a false chord, or whatever voice, whatever that is, what a fry scream, whatever that is, doing that. Like, all those terms weren't terms later. I'm glad they exist now. It's good to quantify like what's going on. But like a bunch of years ago, it was like, oh, that sounds like Randy from Lamb of God, or that voice sounds like Trevor from
right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that was how I would try to sound, like, oh, this part, like, oh, that sounds like, this, or whatever it's going to be, you were not trying to sing in a certain style. And so now it's cool, but because I can break those things up in my head and be like, okay, I'm going to try it in this certain style. I'm going to try this part. So I have 5 different takes of the same thing, and I can sit there and go, this shot, this is terrible, this is really bad, and this one, okay, if I spend the next 3 days on this one will be good. You know what I mean? And that's the journey for me. It's not everybody's journey, and I don't think it's the right way for everybody, but man, it's the way for me. I feel good. I'm excited about it. And I think that's what we should want from our artists. Like, we serve a very fucking real purpose, just like police, firefighters, even though it's a different thing, that art, that creating of real honest emotion, so that firefighters and police or military people can go do their job and feel impassioned and have something that fires them up and keep them laser like focused. Like, I love that when people would tell me they would listen to our music before going into battle. you know, and different conflicts. Of course, it's terrible that they're going into battle, but that's something I made gave them the resolve to go lay their lives on the line. Fuck, it's powerful. I want to be a part of that. That's what I want to do, you know?
Right.
And so awesome now.
Well, I think like something just kind of in listening to you, talking about everything, it seems like you're, like I was saying earlier, and like it's good that we've touched on a lot of the things that you've done and have done creatively, because I think it kind of speaks to what I was saying, where it's like I think you just get so passionate about these things and you just want to explore the ideas and just to see the what ifs and carry them out all the way. Like, because I think too often we get in our own way of, well, that's probably not going to pan out. This isn't like, you just shut it down before it even becomes a thing. Like, it's funny, as you were talking about how you sent a song off to Gabe and you're like anxiously awaiting like the feedback. Yeah. So I've been doing, I had sort of the first realization of what that's kind of like from an artist perspective. Cause two of my friends are doing a podcast and we were trying to figure out a song. And I was like, you know what? I know enough people from doing this that I was like, I'm sure it'll cost us money, but like we can get someone to make something for us. Like, how about this? How about we send the show to like this person and have them listen to it and make something based on what they're feeling from us talking and our conversations, because that will be a sonic representation of what we are doing in a spoken medium. Yeah. And I sent this person the stuff, and like after I sent it, and like it had been like I think a week or two, and I was like, oh fuck, he hates it. Like, and I like even in the email I was like, you're the like first like I texted him, I was like, you're gonna be the first person to hear this because we're doing it as a seasonal thing. Like, we've talked about it, but no one has heard any of this. And it's like, I was like, and I even was telling my guys, I was like, I'm fucking like nervous to put this out because like it's I do this. There's another show that I'm like that's kind of on the back burner now that I was doing, but like it's a different part of me in each of these shows. Like, this is one thing, and it's something that I just get. It's almost like a form of therapy to a degree to me. This other thing I'm doing, it's like it allows me to be more funnier, but also kind of delve a little bit deeper into some weird shit and like kind of showcasing my friends and why I like them and why we've been friends for like 20 years and stuff like that. But it's a thing where like, it's kind of fucking nerve wracking because you're like, this is a part of me I haven't shown anybody. Is it good? And then it's like, the worst part is I then have to keep coming back to, at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter how anyone else perceives it. Yeah. Did I get something out of it? Yes. Then at the end of the day, that's all that fucking matters.
Yeah. I think when like, and again, I'm not comparing myself to like Queen or something, but Queen is a pretty innovative band. I'm not even saying I draw innovation from this. I'm just saying, you think when Fred and Brian were sitting around tossing out ideas for Bohemian Rhapsody, were they like, fuck, like, what if people like this? Like, I don't think that's what was going through their mind. Like, what if this is commercially, they just fucking did it. You know what I mean? And like, it's a good thing they did. And I think that's why we have to take these things. Like, I'm super nervous about what I sent because it's out of the box. And I think out of the box is the way to go.
Well, that's where growth happens.
What I think, so that people who don't know what we're talking about, like those feelings, what for at least dudes, and this is going to be disgusting, but I'll go ahead. It's like showing a girl your penis for the first time. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you think of that? And they're like, all right, it's like,
how much I can do about it?
Is that they're telling me the truth, or is that what, you know what I'm saying? So it's like when you give out these pieces of you, and like the song's like a piece of you, and this is a piece of you, your podcast and your journalism types. You know what I mean? That's a part of you, and so you're putting it out there, and it's nerve wracking, just like the junk is a part of you. You know what I mean? And you want the other person to be like, yeah, this is the best junk ever. And so I think that's super cool. You know what I mean? But I think for people who don't know, that's the easiest way that I could say it, because it feels like you're like showing yourself naked and being like, so what do you think of that? Is that cool? Is that gonna fly? You're bearing pieces of yourself. That would have been the more mature thing to say. Fuck, I don't know why we started that. I started about penises.
Honestly, though, as two dudes talking, it's like that is.
But that is what it's like.
Yeah, you're like, well,
hopefully
you like this.
Hope you like this. Because that's what it is. Try to make it better.
Something and this is a question that, like, again, I kind of hit on yesterday with Jordan and Mitch. But it's something that I just, again, part of why I enjoy doing this is just kind of talking and I don't want to necessarily say picking people's brains, but just kind of the human part of life. How do we navigate it and stuff like that? Something that is interesting to me when thinking about it and kind of traversing my own life, because, you know, we are so wrapped up in identities of who we are. Like, and it changes person to person. So like to my parents, I'm this person, like I'm their kid. And that's, sometimes it's a battle for me, where I feel like I have grown older and I look at them as people now. I look at them as not my parents, but I can look at them as two people who make decisions and opinions and these things. And I don't have to agree with them at all times, but I don't feel like at times I get that reciprocated back to me. But that's just one form of a relationship.
Yeah.
And how I now think about things. So something that I always find kind of interesting is sort of the planes of existence that we are in and find ourselves in based on different type or different time periods in our life. And so to me, what I would like to ask, and you don't have to answer this, but I think it would be an interesting to hear your perspective. You know, you have been known as a singer of Atreyu since you were a teenager.
Yeah.
Still figuring out life, figuring out who you were going to become, and you became something to so many people based on little to no interactions with the actual person. And then you guys decided to go on a hiatus, and now you're not you, and you have to figure out who you are now to yourself and to everybody else. Then you come back to the band, and now you're out of the band again and starting with Dead Icarus and doing all these other things and reintroducing yourself as a new person. What has that process and that journey been like for you?
You know, like, how do I phrase it all?
And I mean, the question may not make sense, but
no. When if I ramble, you know, I apologize.
You're good.
But I feel like when everything, you know, went down with the band, we'll just say it was very sudden, and I suddenly found like everything that I knew was gone and changed, and I was not a part of that. I did not have any of the friends or any of the connections or anything anymore, just like that. And it was weird. It's a mind fuck. And it was a negative. It didn't feel very good for a while. And I think that was an important part of my character growth as a human. I think it was essential. Or, you know, around the same time, you know, I don't know how to frame it, but I'm suddenly not in my band and my job for the past 20 years. That's defined my life, and also financially helps me live. The pandemic is kicking in, and my wife's 6 months pregnant with our third kid. So it's a very challenging time, to say the least. And I needed that. I needed to kind of bottom out. You know what I mean? I become very just like apathetic and accepting of whatever life was going to give me. I wasn't fighting for anything anymore. And so like I needed to hit the bottom and not bounce. I needed to go splat, you know what I mean? And lay there for a little bit and see where I wanted to go and where my passion would take me. You know what I mean? Because without that, we're dead. I'm dead. I'm useless. I lost my passion for Atreyu, it feels like, for a little bit. And I think people could tell to a degree. You know what I mean? And it's not a good spot to be in as the singer of the band, you know? And I never want that to happen again. So I think with Dead Icarus, and now especially with me having control and controlling where it goes, that risk is gone. You know what I mean? And that's super, super awesome. You know, Gabe works with me. We riff and ideas, but like Dead Icarus is my baby. Like he's a mastermind. He's I'm not telling you he's not the mastermind helping me get it out there, but like I'm behind them, that mastermind, you know? And like, luckily he riffs so hard and gives me so much cool shit. You know what I mean? That dude, it's awesome. It's a fun time, but yeah, life's gonna challenge you. Life's gonna do all these crazy things. And it's like, you know, you've got to decide where you're going to go, you know, from it all, and how you're going to go forward. And, you know, it took me a while to be okay with Alex Atreyu dying. You know what I mean? And that sounds like stereotypical and actually not dead. I saw this crazy interview with okay, here we go again. You're going to pigeonhole me here, but Mel Gibson. All right. Okay. So Mel Gibson it's always good when someone starts with like, oh, this one's Mel Gibson's story. Mel Gibson's telling this story about how like the idea of the old you being dead is kind of bullshit. He's like, no, the old me is alive and he's in the back. I dug a grave for him and I keep him out there. And every now and then he tries to get out and I got to go throw dirt on that person. You know what I mean? I got to like put out that fire from coming out and stay my path and stay who I am and who I want to be. And I think I had to go through all those things. I had to go through the separation from the separation from the band and from my life, from what I thought my life was, to really find out what my life could be. You know what I mean? You know, there's lots of people who have like these kind of moments of adversity. Maybe Dave Mustaine, maybe The Rock. You know what I mean? You know, getting cut from his team or whatever it was. I remember reading that story. That went through my head as we parted ways. Was like, this isn't it for you. This is a chance to kill the negative things about yourself that led you here. Because I'm very much responsible for my path. I could have done other things. I could have been even more disgenuine to myself just to save my skin. I couldn't do it anymore. And everything, the tree shook the way that it needed to for me to grow. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think some people, we got to fall. You have to fall. You have to be put at a disadvantage or perceived disadvantage. And that helps us to grow. That helps us to fight and strive. I think the underdog is always going to fight harder, right? You know, you're going to fight hard for that. You know, it's just a way to go. So mentally, I put myself in that place, and I am. Nobody fucking cares. I don't have any help from the old band. You don't see me getting fucking, you know, shout outs from anybody anywhere. This is just me and the fans. That's it. That's what this is about. I feel like I kind of owe people stuff. I remember it was to like fully love a band and be devoted to them and have them change and have that, how that feels. It feels like betrayal. And I think to a degree, the departure from Death Grip into Lead Sails was a betrayal to a certain core fan base. And that's a fan base that I came from. I came from those type of kids, and I know how that feels. And while artistically, you know, you should be able to just do whatever you want, there's like a middle ground that you have to straddle and do it the right way. And it's easy to get lost up in the major label game too. You know what I mean? And now, like I'm with Monarch Heavy. I mean, it's the name, it says Heavy in the record label title. You know what I mean? Not that I don't, the Spine Farm people weren't great. I don't want that perception to be out there one bit. But it says Heavy in the name. You know what I mean? Like it's like free reign to do whatever I want. And that's if I'm going to keep rambling. That's what's also so cool about this is like, aside from the 4 songs that we played for people, there's no box for Dead Icarus. We can just do whatever. And these next songs that we're already crafting, I heard some people say, and it was a positive thing. They're like, oh, this feels like, you know, 2000s metalcore. That's great. I like, you know, whatever. And that's cool. I think some moments feel like that. I think my voice, my scream maybe feels like that. And some of the way that I phrase things, because that's what I listened to. That's when I was the most active, like taking in music was that era. You know what I mean? And then putting it out into what I did. So I think now all bets are off. Like the music that Gabe's doing is just, it's insane. Like, and then the stuff that I'm going to do vocally over it is it's left of center. It's still, there's tons of screaming. There's tons of all these different voices I'm going to do. That's what I'm all about. There's so many cool fucking vocalists out there in the rock metal world that are just doing not just one voice, you know. If I'm being totally random, and I always forget his name, the singer of Skindred, like just so many crazy voices.
Benji.
You're like, I did that. I let you kind of say it, and then I kind of came in at the end. That's a music industry secret right there. You let someone. I
get a point now.
I get a point now. See what I just did is perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I, you know, not that I'm trying to sound like that dude. I don't sound like that dude at all. But listening to all these dudes and like being able to try stuff. Some of these newer bands, they're not even new, but like fucking Bad Omens, like that dude's voice is nuts. Yeah. Like, and I don't feel like, how do I put it? Like, it's very true. Like that's like what he feels to emote for that moment and that sound. That's what he's doing. Like how cool. That's what we're supposed to do. It's not like, well, I'm in a metal band, I got to scream right here, or this is going to be the fucking sung chorus. I got to do the sung chorus right here. Like, you know, like let's do what's right for the song. Let's do it right for the moment. So I'm energized by hearing like these people taking chances. It makes me want to take chances, you know, whether people will like it or not. Like, fuck it, you know, we'll find out. But I want to take the chance.
Kind of a last question, because I know you got to get out of here pretty quickly. Dead Icarus. I mean, for those that obviously would know the story of Icarus, what is Dead Icarus? And you, again, don't have to give it away because I think too often we are given everything without kind of internalizing it and making our own, what it means to us. But I mean, Icarus to me was always a very interesting cautionary tale of, not wanting too much, wanting more than what you have, but finding happiness kind of in the middle of sorts is kind of how I interpret it now as I get older. But in listening to you talk today about everything that you've kind of gone through and just in general, there's sort of what I interpret the band name to be in conjunction to all that. But what does it mean to you? And has it changed, I guess, even from when you first named it, gave the title a name, the project a name?
No, it's still 100% the same thing. I mean, that parable is not about like, not so self-centered to say like about my life, but like the name Dead Icarus is about that. Like, man, I had an awesome thing. I was doing awesome, with what I was doing when I was being true to my heart, the truest records that I made, those three that I recounted. And then I feel like when I started to overreach, when I started to grab for more, I wanted it. I went along with everything that went on. I went along with. People try to act like they weren't on this, they didn't do that, or try to pass the buck. I don't want to see it that way at all. Like, I signed to the major label. I wanted to do that. You know what I mean? Like, done. So I reached. I knew there would be shit. You know what I mean? I knew there would be the chances that the wax would melt and I would fall. And I held the wax on for a while. You know what I mean? But eventually you get too close, other things fall apart. So, metaphorically speaking, right? Your mind goes for me. And that was a big thing. Everybody talks about mental health, but, it's one thing to talk about. It's one thing to really address it, right? You know what I mean? And so to me, Dead Icarus is my story with all that. Is I flew too close. And it all came apart for me. And now it's about like, it's learning from that. It's a never, I leave it at that. It's about learning from it. I flew too close and I got burned, and I learned from it. I chose for it to happen. No one else made it. I burned myself, and it's about me learning from that.
From a selfish fan perspective, I do have another weird question.
What's up?
You probably have been asked this a ton already, but when Dead Icarus ends up performing live, do you plan on playing some of the old Atreyu songs that you wrote that you still find love and interest?
No one's publicly asked me that yet.
Oh, really? And I figured that would have been like one of the first things everyone asked you.
I think this is my third interview since 2019.
Okay.
And the other two happened this week. Or last week. You know what I mean? I dropped off. I didn't want to talk. I don't want to discuss all the shit that happened. I just wanted to go away. You know what I mean? I just wanted to go away for a while. But get me back on track with my question. I had an answer for it.
I wonder if you'll end up playing the Atreyu songs that you feel like you still want to.
Behind
old stuff.
Behind the scenes, like, I've talked like with our manager and stuff about that, like if that's something that I'm comfortable with, and I don't know. I think it's something the other, I would have to talk with Gabe or who's ever going to be performing with me at the time. If that's something that they feel comfortable with, and I would want to like somehow like poll the fans and see if that's what they want. Like if you want to hear, like if you come to Dead Icarus, like I don't want it to be an expected thing.
Right.
But I'm also very grateful that all these people have let me do this for so long. And then when there hasn't been music, they've supported my art. They supported this or that. How can I pay you back for it? It's not like someone's going to offer me thousands and thousands of dollars to go play a Atreyu song. So it's not like about money. I don't really think so. But I think that like to make people stoked would be awesome. To make people true fans who want to see those songs with me, I think that would be something that I could entertain. And you can tell I'm still not 100% there.
Yeah,
because like to an extent, if I'm being totally honest, Atreyu to me was five dudes working together with a certain synergy.
Right.
Any deviation from that to me doesn't jive. Because like is does not compute. So me getting, whether it's, or me doing my thing by myself playing it, it would feel weird. It feels dirty in a way. It feels, I have to differentiate. I have to ask myself, and I'm just being honest, we're just riffing, so everyone can say it. Would I just be doing it for money, or would I be doing it to make people happy? And the reason I think when I ask myself and I think about it, I would be doing it to make people happy. I have these deep conversations with myself, is because I don't think anyone's out there offering to pay me, like I said, thousands and thousands of dollars to go play Live, Love, Burn, Die. You know what I mean? And it would feel weird if it was. It would feel like dirty money in a way. Dead Icarus is going to stand on its own. It already has. Seeing everybody's responses and shit. Like I've only deleted a few comments, and those comments said things that crossed the line for me about the old band. We'll just leave it there as quickly as I can. There's a line that, like, you can't say certain things and expect, no matter how I feel about anything, there's a line. And it's certain words we're not gonna put out in the word, right? You know, your opinion on something written well, I'm not gonna touch. So I've had people that are like, oh, your vocals are too low on this part or this or that. Thank you for taking the time to listen and giving me what you think of it. I might agree, I might disagree, whatever. Like, that's cool. I'll leave that up there. One guy like, nah, thanks, I like the old band better. Cool, man. Thanks for leaving that comment. Like, whatever, bro. Like, that's cool. Like, you do. It doesn't matter. You took the time to listen to it. Thank you. That's what I want. I just want people to give this and me a chance. You know, I feel like I built a rep. It takes 20 years to build a reputation, and like one dumb fucking comment to fucking missile you. You know what I mean? And I've had no shortage of dumb comments here and there. And like, I don't want that to be how I'm perceived. I want people to give Dead Icarus a chance, to give this a chance. And then after all that, if you still think X, Y, and Z about me or the project or whatever, then that's fine. Like, that's what you think. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be able to change that. Just give it a chance. I'll go listen to bands now that I didn't think. I was like, the first ones I heard, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know about this. You know, there's a couple more popular bands right now that I was like, I don't know about this. And then the more I heard it, I was like, fuck, like, so it's undeniable. That's good. You know, I wanted to bring my bullshit into it. Right. I want to let whatever it was stand on its own, and sometimes just let shit stand on its own and see how it is, you know? And that's all I would ask for Dead Icarus. But yeah, I know there's some people who are, you know, slough it off no matter what. And then that's fine too. It's all fine, man. I'm in such a freedom and true freedom and like feeling good. And I haven't felt this way in so long. You know what I mean? And it's my fault I haven't felt this way in so long, just to reiterate that. It's fantastic. It's a fucking awesome thing.
Yeah, I think for me, the question of would you or will you came from the weirdest place. I was listening to the Motley Crue record with John Corabi, which that's the only one they've ever done with him. They don't play any of that shit. He does. He even went and redid a live version of the record because like he's still proud of those songs and the stuff he wrote and stuff like that. And it was like one of those things where I was thinking about it and I was like, you know, there's so many bands that kind of, and Josta talks about this all the fucking time, and I really agree with the sentiment. It's like, collectively, people made that music. Why do some get to play it and the others don't, even though they had an equal hand in making everything? Why don't they get to still express themselves the way they did at one point and that people know them to be? And to me, I feel like it's a thing where, you know, as you were saying earlier, like, oh, I like these 3 songs. These are songs I wrote 100% me. So it's like, I feel like you would still then have some sort of a connection to like maybe something off of the Curse, like Fly Vicodin Chase with a Shot of Clarity. Like, I haven't fucking played that in forever, and I really like that song. I'm going to play it because I want to. Like something like that, where it's like just the idea of like, again, sort of something you've been saying, and I haven't kind of put a word to it, but it's like, I feel like a thing that the staging that you're at from an outsider's perspective, listening to you, is you're just taking ownership back. Stop being complacent. Stop being a bystander in your life, an observer, and participating again and being and taking control. And to me, like, that just, it seems like a natural progression of a question that you would eventually possibly wrestle with or deal with.
Yeah, no, it definitely, like I said, like I toy with it. I think about it. I think also about like the execution of it as well. You know what I mean? Originally, like, I wrote the framework for Brandon's parts, but like, you know, some of them I can sing to a degree, and some of them, like, I wouldn't want to touch, and it's still weird for me, like, even though I could do it singing it. So there's just like a lot of like bridges that I would need to cross mentally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the number one thing is, if it was going to make the people who give me life and give Dead Icarus lifeblood, if it's going to make them stoked to play like 1 to 3 songs randomly every now and then,
yeah,
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not 100% opposed to it at all. But I want to be careful that doesn't become like an expected, like, oh, this is the part where he's going to play fucking.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, that's like it's like getting a tip. You know what I mean? It's like a tip is expected now, and no matter what, it's not like,
didn't earn it.
Hey, you kids were good tonight. You're gonna get hit with a little special song. Here's a little something extra. It's like encores are automatic now. It's staged. It's part of the thing.
Yeah.
I never knew that. I never fucking like years in a band, and I'm like, oh shit. And then we're headlining. I was like, we're doing it every night. They're like, yeah. I was like, really? I'm like, they're not even chanting tonight. We're gonna go back out. All right, fuck it. We'll do it. We're going. We're doing it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like an automatic thing. Like, I don't want things to be automatic anymore. I just want it to be passion. I want it to be like the feel,
Absolutely. Last question for you. Where can people find you, or anything you would like to plug online?
Dude, at Dead Icarus Music on Instagram, at Alex Varkatzas on Instagram. We have a TikTok. I don't fucking know. You can go on it. I'm not dancing around on that shit, but there's information on there. I'm so good at selling the socials. Yeah, there's TikTok. I don't fucking know. Go on it. Whatever. It's fucking. I'm 41. I don't know what a TikTok.
I was gonna say you're roughly same age, and I do the same thing where I'm like, I have stuff. Find it.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So dude, at Alex Varkatzas and at Dead Icarus Music. Our YouTube's awesome. We got some cool stuff up on there. We're pretty active on that. And then, we got another video and music coming out for the final single of the four new songs, or the 4 songs that we wrote. These songs are 2 years old too, I should mention. So they've been around for a minute or two now. So it's exciting to finally get the last one out. The last one is the one I'm the most proud of. And then I checked with Gabe and Brandon as well, and we all 3 like this song the best, which is funny. Maybe we should have put this song out first, but it's the most unique and different of the songs, and it shows kind of the chances and the things that we're going to do in the future. So I'm kind of glad we saved it. It's like 5 minutes long. It's one of the longer songs I've been a part of. It's epic. It's called Ad Infernum. I can't wait for everyone to see it and to hear it. We're going to have an awesome video that the director who did the Sellout video, Monty Legaspi, he also did House of Gold, the Atreyu video as well. Mm-hmm. He's coming back for this video. We shot it a few weeks ago. It's going to be great.
Awesome.
It's going to be the best.
Thank you so much for taking the time. This was kind of a long time coming for me, and something I've been looking forward to and hoping for a long time. I was just joking with someone yesterday that 7 years, 400 plus episodes into this thing, and it's crazy that I still get excited, still get like nervous, and still am like, can have those things happen where it's like you kind of know, and the expectation sort of is already like, yeah, I already know I'm going to talk to this person, and it's going to be this. Like, to still have those things happen, I think is not something I take for granted, especially in this whole conversation we've kind of been talking about, just being passionate and energetic and excited about things. So it's a thing where I'm very appreciative of your time and answering my questions, being open and honest to answer them. So thank you so much.
Hey man, it's a pleasure. Thank you for the years of support. I'm sorry it took me so long. You know what I mean? To get around to it, but I hope I haven't rambled too much.
No, that's the point of a podcast, man.
Appreciate your time, dude.
So that was my conversation with Alex. Want to thank him again for coming on and taking the time to chat with me and being pretty honest and open about some of the struggles and tribulations that he went through in the time that he's not been in Atreyu anymore, and kind of all of that. I mean, I think to me it's something I harp on quite a bit on here, honestly, but it's something I find just so infinitely fascinating as I get older myself, where it's kind of this idea of who we are. Like there's sort of this, I don't want to say sense of ego, but just this sense of who you are is a lot of times wrapped up in something. Like I'm literally texting my wife right now, who is at a bar hanging out with friends, and everyone, and this always happens inevitably when the two of us are not together, but someone goes, where's so-and-so? Where's the other person? And I've dealt with that so much in my life. Growing up in a small town, having friends that were pretty popular in our small town and well known, and it always became, well, where's so and so? Where's so and so? And a lot of my identity growing up, and I guess even still now with my wife, but it's like so much of my identity, I feel like at times is tied to a thing, tied to a person. And it's like, that is a part of me, yes, but it is not all that I am. And I think there's this trying to find the why does that happen, and finding the growth of the person as they navigate that themselves, if they ever do. Because I think sometimes there are people who are kind of oblivious sometimes to things needing to change or whatever, or not taking responsibility or looking inward to see how they can grow. I mean, I can think of countless conversations with friends of mine. And, you know, I always kind of joke with them that it's like, it's crazy that everyone in your life that you're not dating or whatever, they're crazy. Any job you've ever left, well, they're the assholes and da-da-da-da-da. But the only constant is you, my guy. Like, you are the only constant in all of this. So at some point, where do you not revert that lens back to yourself and go, I wonder if I have caused any of these things. Who am I? And to me, I think doing this, what Alex has gone through at such a late age, and I'm not saying his age is old, but what I'm saying is it's so late in life to kind of do that there's a lot more scariness to it. There's a lot more of, what if this is all I was? What if this is all I was good at? And now your identity has been taken away. Like, I find the idea of that very fascinating. And because no two people are the same, that journey is going to look different for everybody. And hopefully, in listening to that, I know for myself, I gain more perspective on how to navigate some of these things, maybe through a challenge or difficult time somebody else had and how they went through it, and being able to come out on the other side of it allows me to get those tools to kind of do the same. And hopefully, if you're listening to this and maybe you're experiencing something like that, it'll allow you to do the same thing. That's kind of the goal of this, really. A lot of the last handful of episodes I've done and posted leading up to this new year, I'm getting a lot of feedback from people who are saying, it was really, with Garrett, it was really great to hear him open up about his mental health and the struggles and how he overcame that, because I'd been there and it is really hard. And it was refreshing to hear that I'm not alone in going through that. Talking to Porter, this last week, and it made fucking headlines, and I was really upset about it. But, him deciding to move to Germany away from his family so his wife and him could be where it makes sense for them to live and thrive and continue on in their journey of their marriage and their story together. But that's got to be fucking terrifying as well. And what does it look like when you're at a certain age and you're kind of at a crossroads where it's like, I think this is where I need to be, but home is home. And I just think as a whole, I think those become things that get harder as you get older in your adult life. And hopefully these conversations I've had, all of them, but I mean, I'll say at least in the last couple of weeks that the episodes have come out, I hope you kind of are able to kind of sense that. I'm kind of looking for something and showcasing how people are able to navigate difficult times, and that everybody has the tools and the ability to do such and come out on the other end of it stronger than they were before. I know it sounds hokey as shit, but I mean it when I say that this is essentially sort of a form of therapy, I think, for myself and even the other person, and hopefully those that are listening, and honestly give it a fair shake to listen to the whole thing. All of that said, I'm going to start wrapping up this episode. I don't want to take too much more of your time than I already have. The last few episodes have been long. This one was a little bit shorter than the other ones, but all that said, if you would like to keep up with Dead Icarus, basically it's easy enough. Just go to deadicarus.net. That is the landing page for everything. If you'd like to keep up with Alex, you can find him under his namesake on Instagram. It's all in the show notes. I'm not going to try to pronounce and butcher his last name. I know he said it in the episode, but I'm really bad with saying things that I can't quite grasp how to say them, and I'm just not going to butcher it, so I'm not going to do that. But it's under his name. You can find him. He doesn't have Twitter. Dead Icarus doesn't have Twitter. They have a Facebook, but it's not like facebook.com/Dead Icarus. It's like a profile with lots of numbers and stuff. But if you go to deadicarus.net, you will find everything you need to know about the band. Go support them on YouTube, TikTok. Like I said, the new record will be hopefully out this upcoming year. And if you'd like to keep up with the podcast, you can follow us simple enough at BrewSpeakPod on all your social media platforms. And if you'd like to email me to keep the conversation going with anything from an episode, you can do such at brewtallyspeaking@gmail.com. And I want to thank my podcast sponsors for a year of continued support, years of continued support in the case of Rockabilia. Head on over to rockabilia.com, use our code BREWtally at checkout, take 10% off your total purchase order. Very much looking forward to another year with those guys and gals. Need to make my way out to the shop, actually, and go check out the facilities, go see the warehouse, go bug Frankie, go see and pick through some of the merch. Maybe I'll be gracious enough to either do a podcast from there. I think that'd be fun with the right band and do something with them and kind of tour the warehouse and kind of do a collaboration. That would be fun. And Starving Artist Brewery, I want to thank them again for a year of coming on and supporting the show, not only monetarily, but as well as providing your boy with some beers. They are fucking delicious. I can't wait to get back up there and go get some more. I probably could get Andy to send me some more beer, but that's for another time. That's for later. I need to do that on my own. And for the podcast, I am John. I will see you all, as sappy as it is to say, I'll see you all next year. I don't have another episode done. I actually was supposed to have Jordan from Better Lovers on. Holidays, my anniversary, a bunch of other things kind of got in the way. The industry is very slowly probably going to be back. So if I don't have another episode next week, that is why, because literally the industry shuts down around from Thanksgiving till now. I did as much as I could. And if I don't have another episode to get out in time that's new, I will probably just do a best of and make you go back and listen to one that I think was really good, that maybe was overlooked or forgotten about. And if that's the case, well, enjoy your extra week with everybody and getting back into the swing of things. I will talk to you all next time regardless. Enjoy your week.